Welcome to Screen Chat, live from the Media Hub on rightradio.ca. What if we got Gilmore Girls star Chance Crawford to be Nightwing? Can you see that happening? This show discusses all the latest Marvel movies.
I think we know he's gonna bond the adamantium back to Wolverine, which might get him to be the Horseman of War.
And the latest DC Comics. He's pitched that he wants to be this universe's Dick Grayson.
That's terrible. Like, I could do a better job probably.
With takes on the latest Star Wars adaptations.
Do you care if people don't like it? And the director was like, no, I don't really care if you don't like it. I don't care if you don't like the show. I don't care about the Star Wars universe. And all I want to say is, why are we hiring somebody who doesn't care about what they're making?
And much, much more.
I think this is my favorite Final Fantasy.
Okay, I like to hear that.
It's just so well done and so good.
And whatnot. That is actually the opening scene of 1999.
That is
like,
amazing.
Come on, right? Like,
for a new sci-fi movie, I've seen a lot of bad movies recently, and this one is not bad by any means.
join us every Friday on Screen Chat for a fun time. Beautiful day. So make sure you go out, enjoy your FNF Fridays, or you know the vibes. Some good laughs.
You were like, oh, you can't have Jensen Ackles because he's Soldier Boy, but you couldn't have Nightwing because he could be the Deep. Like, don't do this to me. Don't play this game.
And great hot takes all about pop culture. We have the one and only Sonic 06, the most underappreciated video game in human history. And I'll die on the hill. So we will see you guys then. Eldin, are you ready?
Justin, I think I'm ready. So, are you ready?
Oh, I'm definitely ready for this.
Okay.
Welcome to Screen Chat, live from the Media Hub on rightradio.ca. I'm your host, Justin. With me today behind the scenes, I have my co-host, Eldin. And boy, am I happy to be back. Eldin, it has been a while since we've done an episode. And I think, it's been a long time coming doing this one today. So thank you so much for being here today, Eldin, behind the scenes. And thank you guys for tuning in. We have a friendly episode for you guys again. I'm going to use that same punchline, as today we are discussing the recent season of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man from Disney Plus and Marvel Studios. Now, as you guys know, Screen Chat is your show all about the latest Marvel movies, DC Comics, Stars, adaptations, and much, much more. But like I previously mentioned, we're going to focus on Marvel today. So in the last episode that we did, we actually did discuss the first couple episodes. But since then, now the show has concluded, and we are back to discuss Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So Eldin, just coming straight to you on this one. Without going too in-depth on it, what did we think about this this adaptation of Spider-Man?
I mean, I was a little hesitant, but I am pleasantly surprised.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just to backtrack off that point, a lot of people before the show even came out were slating it. They're like, this doesn't look good. I don't want to see it. It's weird, looks goofy. And oh my God, I just feel like it hit a home run with this one, honestly.
I love the art style.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm a Borderlands fan, and like the whole like hard lines, like the black outlines and everything looked fantastic.
Yeah, amen to that.
Like, I kind of reference it like almost like Archie.
Yes.
But it beat the allegations.
Yeah. I would say that one thing right off the bat definitely beat those allegations, because this was a show that before it even came out was touted to fail. They were like, we don't want to see another Spider-Man show. We don't think it looks good. No one wanted to see this. And I just feel like it was a lot of narcs online, because I'm like, dude, the show hasn't even dropped yet and you're already judging it. It was already touted to get seasons 2 and 3 before the pilot even dropped. So I was one of the guys that said, if it's getting seasons 2 and 3, then season 1 has to be good. There's like no way. I know we had some discussions on that initial episode about how I guess the first 2 episodes I thought were good. I personally, I like them. They set a good tone if you could go back and watch that episode. I know there's a couple skepticisms there, if that's the right word to say, but I enjoyed it. I would say overall, just generally speaking, I really enjoyed the show. There were very few things that I disliked. Maybe more or less just, I can't even say I really disliked a lot. And I'm not saying that just to glaze the show. Like, I've seen so many different Spider-Man medias, as you guys have as well. I know, Eldin, you have, obviously. And I think this one could go to bat with most of them. So they're actually these guys that, believe it or not, they're the Dark Knight. So they go out at night, vigilante, Gotham City.
Oh, you mean like Night Monkey from
Ben 10, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that's Howler Monkey or Spider Monkey.
Spider Monkey, yeah, you're right, it is. But yeah, I would say that the show, and I mentioned this last episode, that it was one of the first pieces of Spider-Man media to kind of come out by itself. Like, there wasn't a big movie that was corresponding with this later this year. There wasn't a video game that dropped. There wasn't a Lego special. Like, it was just this. And I feel like because it had so much added pressure, it really hit it out of the park. You know, you didn't see fans saying, "Oh, I'll watch Friendly Neighborhood after I'm done Spider-Man 2," or like, "Oh, I'll watch Friendly Neighborhood after I watch the new Into the Spider-Verse movie," or "I'll watch Friendly Neighborhood after the Tom Holland movie comes out in a couple weeks." Like, no, it was on its own playing field. And I think it did really well. So we do have a lot to discuss today, breaking down the season. Some concepts that we're going to look into is some of the characters, the plot points, comparisons to the MCU, and what we want to see beyond this. So I think Eldin will get straight to it. Now, off rip, Spider-Man in the show looked really cool. I would say that, like, this white suit that we have on display right here, he got from Norman Osborn, and they kind of have that, like, Peter and Tony dynamic in this adaptation. I thought it looked awesome. It's one of those ones where when you play the Spider-Man games, I don't know about y'all, but as soon as I can, I change my suit. Like, you see the classic red suit your whole life, you want to change it up. So the fact that his advanced suit was this white suit, I will call it the Oscorp suit for lack of better terms, loved it. I thought it was really cool. It was cool to see Peter go from having no suit to like a homemade one to then having this more advanced techie kind of suit. So Eldin, what were your thoughts on the white suit, and did you embrace it the way I did?
I was a little hesitant, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I like this one was really reminiscent of like the Superior Spider-Man, like the one he has like the claws in the back, and kind of the one that he had in Civil War in the comics.
Yes, actually, that is true.
But I was not a big fan of this white spider. It looked almost too much like Muse or like White Tiger.
Yeah, honestly, that's a fair comparison.
I liked some of the callbacks with the other costumes, but I was happy they fixed it.
Yes. Yeah, that is very true. Just to backtrack off that point, we actually discussed Daredevil a couple episodes ago now, and now that you bring up White Tiger and Muse, it's like, oh wait, it does kind of look like that. So that is fair. Later on in the show, we did see him don that classic red suit. Looked amazing there, and this was given to him by Harry Osborn too, which I thought was very fitting given their history, their I guess relationship really and dynamic throughout the year. So I thought that was cool that this time around it was Harry Osborn that gave him this iconic suit. Eldin, I highly doubt you had any complaints about this one because this is like standard. And,
yeah, this is like this makes me think of like the I think the 90s one.
Yeah.
Love that. That makes me think of like the old games. The fact that he's so young in this was a little bit of an issue for me.
Yeah, he's in 9th grade. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
I know.
A 14-year-old or 15-year-olds like swinging through.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, this suit really just brought it back to me.
Yeah, and yeah, that's totally fair. To backpack off Eldon's point there too is that this show, like we said last week, was originally supposed to be Tom Holland's prequel, and then they kind of shifted gears and made it an alternate, I'm going to call it like a what if timeline. Maybe we'll come back to that later on, but it was like a what if story. Like, what if Tom Holland Spider-Man got adopted by Norman Osborn? And I think it's really cool to see a freshman Tom Holland Spider-Man grade 9 go through all of this, like Eldon just mentioned. So we're going to jump into more of the characters because obviously we're going to talk about Spider-Man throughout the show, but I did want to discuss more of the side characters that we saw, including Nico Minoru. So this is a really cool take on the character and on Peter's dynamic with a female character. We've seen in the past, obviously, Gwen Stacy, Mary Jane Watson, even Liz more recently in the MCU. And I feel like when you give Peter Parker Nico Minoru, what's going to happen? And I loved it. I thought this was just as good as any comparison with Spider-Man and a female character. She's not a love interest, at least yet. We'll get to maybe his other love interest later on, but they're very much like platonic best friends. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed to see it. It wasn't Peter getting burned any chance he got to hang out with Nico. It wasn't Nico making fun of him for being a nerd. Like, they literally cared about each other on some like deep friendship stuff. So I enjoyed that. Eldin, I know you're a fan of the comic books. I know you like Blade and all those guys from the Midnight Suns. How did you feel seeing Nico Minoru in more or less this setting in comparison to past stuff?
Like, I didn't know who she was.
Oh, okay, no, that's fair then. Yeah.
Like, to make it easier for me, I was just like, okay, this is some random girl. I like the adaptation of him having like a female friend.
Yeah.
Like, this is our Ned, if you recall that.
Actually, that's a good point.
But I liked her as a character. Anything like the fact that they're kids.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about children in media. Like, they're just really annoying. But this was all right.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, so just to backpack off that point, I don't know too much about Nico Minoru outside of this show. Like, I like Blade, I like Morbius, I like the Black Knight, so Nico Minoru kind of falls in with them in the Midnight Suns. I know Evan, he's a big fan of the Midnight Suns, and he was kind of skeptical about this, but I definitely think that she was a great addition to this, like Eldon had previously mentioned. Yeah, going on to the next character now we have is Harry Osborn. Now, this adaptation of Harry was very different. He was this rich boy influencer who was kind of out of touch with reality because of his, I guess, his father's wealth, but was also trying to humanize himself. He was trying to relate to characters on a more grounded level, didn't want to be known as just some pretty boy who like didn't care about anything, and actually was a Harry Osborn that, in comparison to maybe a James Franco or other comic books, was very humble. And I'm not saying it to be like funny, but he didn't ask for nothing. He just wanted to kind of just be his own person. And I feel like there was a nice take on it. This character design got so much slate, but I'm like, if Norman Osborn's going to be black, his son's going to be black as well. Like, don't, like, come on now. Like, just let's be adults here and let's just hit it right on the head. Obviously, Harry's going to be black if his dad is black. So, Eldon, I'm going to come to you on this one because we actually haven't really spoken a lot about Harry off screen. How did you find his character in this show?
I actually liked him. Like, I find Harry Osborn in the Sony verse is really annoying. I also just like hate the Francos. So.
Yeah, that's fair.
But he was fantastic.
Yeah,
like I like the green as well. Like Norman wears green, so he's gonna wear green too. And like Harry was really good in this. And then the whole like Harry and Nico and Spider-Man and like Peter, it was such a good combination.
Yeah,
it's like three worlds colliding. Like
essentially, yeah.
Nico's, lives in a
foster home.
Care.
Yeah.
Peter has his aunt, and Harry's got his dad, but no mom. So like all three of these have shared traumas in a nice way, and they're all kind of just relating and just happy to be there for each other.
Yeah. And I think, too, just to backpack off that, it really made Spider-Man feel grounded again. You know, as much as we love the No Way Homes of the world and the Avengers of the world, seeing Spider-Man go from being your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man to your friendly galactic Spider-Man it's hard. It's not like, I'm not trying to sound like that, but when you grow up with a character who is a teenager, that's his whole spiel is he helps people in the community, and for years now we've seen Spider-Man on a galactic level. It was nice to see him back on the ground. I think with this adaptation of Harry that I also enjoyed as well is that he wasn't naive, he wasn't jealous, he wasn't upset that Peter had power and he didn't. He found out that Peter was Spider-Man and he's like, okay, how can I help? And the comparison that I made is he was Oracle. He was Batman's Oracle. So he wanted to be the dude at the desk, as he said. He embraced that from the start. And I loved that. I'm like, this wasn't a guy that was jealous. He wasn't mad that he wasn't fighting the crime. He was like, okay, with what I could provide is me being the dude at the desk, and I want to do that. So I did really enjoy that. I hope to see more of him in future adaptations of the show. And we'll touch back on him, I'm sure, before the episode ends. But yeah, I'm glad that Eldon and I were both in agreement on that. The next character that I want to bring up, I did tease her, was Pearl. Now, Pearl was, I guess, she was kind of Peter's love interest. Like, Peter has a huge crush on Pearl. She was his, I guess, childhood babysitter, which I thought was hilarious. And we know, if you don't know Pearl, she's a Filipina character. And in the comic book, she actually becomes a hero called Wave, which is like an Atlantean type beat of a hero. And we get a little tease at that as well, because she does say to Peter that her world back in the Philippines is a completely different world. So that did kind of tease it there. But she went through a lot of hardship of her own. You know, she was the pretty girl in high school that had the jock boyfriend being Lonnie Lincoln, and Lonnie just like ghosted her, turned against her. And what I thought was really cool about that is that I feel like a lot of teenage girls, like I'm only 4 years removed from high school, so like I remember being in high school and that kind of high school lifestyle. When you're like Miss Popular, as soon as anything like that could kind of throw you off of your perch, if that makes sense, it shows and it does hit. And like I've had a lot of friends that are girls that have also relayed some points that Pearl relays even to Nico in this scene to me. And it's like, yeah, like it was really good relatability. It was very grounded, and it was really cool to see like much more of a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man universe than it was a galactic universe. So Eldon, about Pearl, I know we both, before the show, weren't really familiar with Pearl. Now we know a little bit more about her. How did you feel about her character?
I liked her as a character. Like we can all relate to having a childhood babysitter with a crush on. And like little Petey Parker was really cool. I really enjoyed that. I had no gripes with her. I think she was a good character. Like the whole struggle with like Lonnie, and again, two worlds colliding, right? Like that's kind of the whole thing with this, is we kind of forget how many different people live in New York, especially with heroes. And it's kind of wild. Like I really enjoyed this. But yeah, I don't by any means think she was like a throwaway character. I was like, who is Pearl?
Yeah.
Aside from like Mr. Krabs' daughter. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm not going to spend too much more time on Pearl just because I feel like her arc isn't going to be in season 2. So coming on to the next character now, we have Otto Octavius, which it was so cool to see Dr. Octopus looking like this, in the sense of this is straight from the comics, straight from the animated shows of the 90s. It was goofy, but I loved it, you know? And I thought it was cool that he was kind of this Oscorp reject who then became an underground weapons dealer. And that was his role of the whole show. You know, he was supplying weapons to different gangs and different criminals. And the whole plot point for him was, how can I continue to do this to get out of Norman Osborn's shadow? Because the context is him and Norman, they were, I guess, colleagues, yeah? And then eventually they had a huge falling out, and Norman, and him do not like each other. So I like this adaptation. He was very much an underlying plot of the show. Eldin, coming back to you, were you satisfied with this adaptation of Otto Octavius?
Yeah, I think so. I think you could see Unicorn in the back.
Yeah.
And we didn't get Unicorn. We won't get the Rhino. We won't get all these other villains without Otto and Norman's weird, I'm better than you, you're better than me, blah blah, I'm super smart. I did enjoy it, and we didn't get to see him with the claws or the arms, but it was heavily shown.
Yeah, it
when
was
they're in the
teased.
lab and it's coming out of the ceiling, and when he's in jail and he's making the patterns. There's definitely, we will get it, and without Otto, what do you have?
Exactly,
And
right?
the whole solar thing, I highly doubt he has the power of the sun.
It was a great callback, yeah.
It was so good. And the amount of the callbacks in this were, again, the guy at the desk.
Yep.
That was from, Spider-Man 1, right? I guess, the new age. But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, amen to that. So I did want to move on now to some key plot points. And I think my favorite plot point was definitely the Scorpion. So the Scorpion is another villain who, to Eldon's point momentarily ago, who's the Scorpion without Otto in this show? Nobody. He's just a gang member. He's just a gang leader. So the Scorpion is the main villain. And I love this because right off rip, the MCU teased Scorpion and you never saw him again. What's that all about? The Scorpion is one of my favorite Spider-Man villains. And when I found out that he was going to be in this and he was going to be comic accurate, I was so happy. I thought he was probably the Seth Rollins of this show. The way The Rock said last year that Seth Rollins is the MVP of WWE, I thought he was the MVP of this show. As cool as the other characters were, I loved every scene that he was in, and I was so happy to see him in there. I know, Eldin, you liked one specific thing that he kept saying to Peter, so why don't you tell us all about that?
Rano. He was a Hispanic villain that kept it going.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't a tokenism, again, Scorpion's always been Hispanic.
Yep.
And I think they really hit the nail on the head with this series. I can't tell you how impressed I really was with this.
Yeah.
And I didn't, some things didn't resonate with me. But it was mostly just the again, it's children in media where they make stupid choices and you're
Yeah.
well, I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But Rano, it was so good. And he's just Gara, it's Garo.
Yeah, Matt
He
Garno,
was
yeah.
Such an unhinged villain.
Yeah.
And so good for it too.
And he destroyed Peter in their first encounter to the point where
It's
Norman,
the first time we see blood.
yeah, which was wild
Peter
too.
gets impaled.
Yeah. And Norman was you got to stop pulling your punches, which again, another reference to Andrew Garfield's adaptation there too. But it was wild to see the Scorpion. And I've been dying for this because again, he gets teased in the MCU and then he never gets brought up ever again. So this was a great addition for me. Their main beef though was against the 110th gang, who were another big part of this. This is a nice shot of Big Dom leading the 110th going up against the Scorpion gang there. And I thought the 110th were a nice addition. Now, I'm not too familiar with them by any means. I think off camera, Dan and I were speaking about this, and he knows about Big Dom and stuff like that. I don't know much, so I'm not going to tell you if this was good or bad. I do know that Dozer was voiced by WWE superstar Big E, so that was pretty cool.
I'm just happy we had Suge Knight.
Yeah, Suge Knight.
Yeah.
Literally, yeah.
And I don't know who the 110 is, so this is kind of one of the throwaways for me.
Yeah.
Where I'm hey, Lonnie wouldn't be a part of this if his little dirtbag brother didn't get involved.
Yeah, so that's a good segue because, Lonnie obviously goes from being Lonnie Lincoln, the quarterback, to Lonnie Lincoln, the 110th gang member, going by Tombstone. And Tombstone is a really cool character in the comics, and we know that Tombstone kind of has a troubled past in the comics. How are they going to do that here? Well, we touched upon this in the first episode. Lonnie just to be blunt, he just encounters racism all the time. Like, this guy was followed home by the cops just for walking home. I'm just going to be blunt. Like, unfortunately, that happens. It's like modern day society. We still go through that. And it was a very realistic take on New York. As someone that's been to New York recently, I've been to many parts of New York. Unfortunately, it still does happen. So it was cool to see Lonnie become Tombstone. And it went from Lonnie Lincoln, the innocent football player, to Tombstone, the if I'm here, I need to be committed. And these guys, they have my back. He was very loyal to Big Dom, helped him out. And then in the end, it was Big Dom that fled the 1/10. And who stepped up? It was Tombstone. And Tombstone, he gets a little bit of power, and we're starting to see the effects of that there with his hands becoming more white. Not on no Michael Jackson type beat, but all jokes aside, Tombstone and Spider-Man do defeat the Scorpion in the end. So it was really cool to see. I think Lonnie Lincoln is now one of my favorite characters of modern Marvel because, again, like, Tombstone the character doesn't mean much to me. I know Eldin, like, I don't think we've ever really spoken about Tombstone, so yeah.
Again, for me, he's always been a villain, with Kingpin.
Yeah.
So always Daredevil, never really Spider-Man, at least to what I've seen. Of course, he is a Spider-Man villain. They're in New York. Like, everyone's a villain for somebody's villain.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, Tombstone is a really cool character. It's going to be really hard watching his transition to Tombstone. We're going to see it.
I just hope he keeps the braids, Like,
I don't think he will.
The braid had myself.
Yeah, okay. I don't think he has it, though. Like, when you see him in, like, the comics, it's, like, black, like, swept back hair. Or, like, actually white swept back hair.
Exactly.
So
it'll be interesting. The final key plot point I wanted to discuss was Norman and Peter once again, seeing them now fleshed out for a whole season. And honestly, a lot of good things to say. I thought their dynamic didn't seem forced. It wasn't like... It was really and truly, it was one of the first times I've seen it be strictly mentor and mentee and not like a fake father-son type beat. And I thought he was very good, voiced by Colin Domingo, very good adaptation of Norman Osborn. And like I said this the first time we discussed it, I love the character design. Like, to me, when I was younger, I loved Willem Dafoe, but comic Norman was this. It was the lighter skinned dude with the wave, sorry. This one, he's a bit more fair skinned, but yeah, love Norman Osborn in this. I know you winced momentarily. What did you think about their dynamic?
So as we see, there's always an ulterior motive. And like Norman has like 6 other ulterior motives with Peter. So it feels very predatory.
Okay.
Like, oh yeah, come on in. Oh, you meet my son. Hi. Now Harry's part of this. Okay. And like, that was an accident, sure.
Yeah.
But the whole, like, he's hiding things. He's doing things that he shouldn't be doing. And he's even telling Ross that, like, yeah, I got a Superman on or I have a superhero on retainer. And it's like, well, no, you don't.
Yeah.
He's a 9th grade kid that you're mentoring.
You're like grooming, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, it is like, and like, you look at Norman in the comics, he's unhinged.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see there's a big thing with the glider where you see the glider where it saves Spider-Man, and then when they talk about fixing the glider, we will see Green Goblin.
Yeah, and it'll be really cool when we see that. I think that Norman Osborn in this felt like the perfect anti-hero because any businessman to get to the top has done shady things. He literally says that in the show as well. So, like, it's just the truth. So I feel like with that being the groundwork, I definitely enjoyed their dynamic. But to Eldon's point now, definitely he was hiding a lot of stuff throughout, which we'll get into before the episode ends. But yeah, I did really enjoy their dynamic once it was fully fleshed out. Now moving on to a more fun little quick discussion here. We had a ton of cameos, and I really enjoyed to see some of these, such as the Avengers. We got a great callback to Civil War, the Sokovia Accords, and this was amazing to see. This is like a 1-to-1 shot. Obviously, Spider-Man in this adaptation is not fighting at the airport, but it was amazing. I remember when Eldon was watching this episode, he like paused it. He's like, yo, you got to come see this. And I was like, oh yeah, there you go. Because off camera, we kind of predicted that this was going to happen. I think this was like teased. We did not see the teaser. For like really and truly, we did not. So yeah, Eldon, Avengers, we were right. You're happy that we were right?
Yeah, I mean, we knew it. We saw Rogers, like the picture of Norman and Rogers, so we knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
This is a great shot.
Yeah,
and like they mentioned how like war fugitive Bucky Barnes and Steve Rogers are still on the run.
Yeah.
Like, the Sokovia Accords are happening as the entire show is happening,
Which is
Is
wild.
so good.
Yeah, it's so good. The next one we got was Daredevil. He had his own episode named after him, Dance with the Devil. Oh man, this episode, I liked it. I enjoyed that. It was a little cameo, and that's the thing, right? He had a fight scene with Peter, and then that was really it. He said to Peter, look, kid, you're trying to do the right thing, but Osborn's hiding stuff. And then he knocked him out and then left. Amazing. That's like perfect what Daredevil would do. And it's voiced by Charlie Cox. So for me, I got Charlie Cox and I got the black suit. So peak for me. Eldin, quick take on that one.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, Charlie, it was weird, like hearing this like kid Spider-Man and then like Charlie Cox's voice. I was like, wait a minute.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was really. I love like again, Daredevil's one of my favorite like villain, or I guess anti-heroes.
Yeah.
/ heroes / kind of a villain eventually sometimes.
Yeah.
But again, he's such a good character.
And I like that Peter name dropped him as the devil. So at this point, he's still just that vigilante and no one really knows his name. So I thought that was a cool nod. We also got another appearance from one of Peter's mentors, and that was Iron Man. He came in at the end with Thunderbolt Ross to, I guess, more or less detain Otto Octavius after he just wiped out Ross's men. It was cool to see. I said this to Eldin off air that I enjoyed seeing that classic suit. Like, it looks amazing. As cool as Tony Stark's suits are in the MCU, I'm a comic kid at heart, and this is Iron Man to me, so I really enjoyed that. Eldin, I know you also enjoyed seeing it as well. We saw Iron Man look like this in X-Men 97, so it was cool to see the continuity continue there.
It's the second time we've seen it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of the old suits, but I did like that this was like that. Like that Iron Man.
A bigger I gave it away there, but bigger cameo was the symbiote and Doctor Strange there. These guys appeared in episode 1, which we discussed, but then we find out through some time loop paradox that they were going to return. So in the finale episode, we do see the return of Strange and the symbiote, who we were theorizing was not Venom. People online are calling him Venom. For lack of better words, I'm just going to say Venom. Cool shot here as we got Peter fighting Venom in the Dark Realm, which was amazing. Strange was like, no, what are you doing? And he jumped through and fought him. It was really cool. Eldin, this gave me X-Men 97 vibes of when Gambit and Magneto were fighting, Gambit and Wolverine were fighting the Sentinel. It was cool to see like a team up here.
Exactly, yeah, I loved it. And like seeing like the symbiote planet, like the living planet, and also seeing like this version of Venom. I like this like bestial Venom.
Yeah.
He makes when I first saw Strange, I thought he might have this might have been like a Venom that had come from like one of the like the realms of Thor, and maybe it was like a frost giant or something. But I like this.
Good take,
I like this cool like monstrous. I like the monsterverse in it, so I like it.
Yeah, so it was really cool to see these characters too. And like big thing that X-Men 97 did right was they had cameos that made sense, and I think this show did as well. So that was awesome to see. And final cameo to mention, like I mentioned at the start, I wanted to consider this to be a what if scenario. And who do we see at the end? The Watcher. Honestly, this like made my whole day, because before the show even started, I literally said, this is a what if. This is what if Tom Holland, not Spider-Man, this is what if Tom Holland was taken in by Norman Osborn, and what do you know it, at the very end of the show, the Watcher's there. So I'm gonna give myself the little round of applause there. I kind of called that, so I was happy with that. Eldin, I know you actually missed this the first time, so yeah, tell us about that.
Well, I was I was on the couch, heavily medicated for toothache, and I was just firing through Spider-Man. And I don't know if I was on my phone or if I was like just conked out, but yeah, I did not see this.
Yeah, Dan,
So,
he was like,
yeah.
make sure you pay attention here. And then when I don't know if it was the clouds, but like when the sky just morphed into the Watcher silhouette, loved it. That was pretty peak. So we're going to move on now to a bit of a little discussion here about the MCU versus MCAU. Bit of a discussion here, as there's been a ton of comparisons already between Tom Holland's live action and Tom Holland's characters animated. I really like this comparison, and I'm going to go bold and say I think I actually like the animated version more. I think the characters that they introduce, the world building that they do, it kind of christens in its own right. The comparison that I made off air was, I feel like the first 2 episodes were kind of like his version of the first Spider-Man movie is called Spider-Man, is it No Way Home? No, Far From Home. I don't remember what it's called. Kind of just Homecoming.
Home Alone.
Homecoming. Is it Spider-Man Homecoming?
Home Alone. Yeah, it is Homecoming.
So I think Homecoming, if you're going to compare it to the show, is kind of like the first 3 episodes. Then I would say Far From Home is kind of like the middle, and I'd say No Way Home was like those final 2 episodes. And I think the way that MCU Tom Holland like was portrayed kind of got done dirty a little bit. You know, second movie, he goes to England and he fights Mysterio. It was kind of it wasn't really that good of a film. And then in his last movie was his best one, which was No Way Home. And as good as he was in it, my favorite scenes include Andrew and Toby and Willem Dafoe and Otto Octavius and even let's face Jamie Foxx.
Yeah,
right.
Like
So
the main villain was Green Goblin again in that.
yeah.
Like he always is the end all be all villain.
And I think with that being said, right, this was a show that I loved Spider-Man in it. I loved Peter Parker. I didn't come here saying, you know what, man, he was good, but Minori was better. But Lonnie was better. But 1/10 was better. It was like very much a Spider-Man media and a Spider-Man show. And I just feel like not Tom Holland's fault, but if Tom Holland in live action got Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man over 3 movies and we don't get Toby and Andrew, we'd probably be saying that Tom Holland is the best live action Spider-Man, period. Don't know if that's a hot take, but look at how good the story was, right? Like,
I don't like Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I never
yeah,
have.
that's fair.
The movies are good. I just don't think he's the fit.
I just think that story though would have really elevated him, because we watched No Way Home, and whether it was Toby or Andrew, you said one of them was the best. It wasn't Tom, unfortunately.
No, yeah. Like, I think honestly, again, Andrew is the cool Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Toby is the cool. Well, Toby is the first 2 movies at least, not the third one, but he is.
You didn't like the dance?
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. He is like Peter Parker for me. Like he's also the photographer. Like he is like a 1-to-1.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I would say that when you're able to compare an animated media to a live action movie, like I'll Die on the Hill, that means that the animated media is amazing. I'm a huge fan of doing that, by the way, because that's just how good some of the animation is that like we take in. Off air, Eldin and I discuss The Boys and Invincible all the time. Very similar type beat of a show. One is live action, one is animated. Which one is better? This is another example of that. It's like, as good as Tom Holland's films were they better than this animated product? And it's not to say that Tom Holland's films were not that good. It's that this animated adaptation based on his character was just amazing. Another MCU callback that we did get was the symbiote droplet, which I thought was cool because we got to see, I guess, the animated version of the symbiote piece that we got in No Way Home. And in Venom 3, not spoiling it, sorry, Eldin, but they do confiscate the symbiote droplet, so it's kind of a throwaway. But in this one, it is confiscated by Norman Osborn. So we could be seeing a Venom suit from him, maybe Venom Goblin. We don't really know yet, but that's a really good thing.
I will say in the Thunderbolts, Agent Venom is his head of security.
Oh, word. Okay, I didn't even know that.
That guy that remember he said when Norman says to Ross who Spider-Man is, and he just put the picture of his security guard. That guy in one of Thunderbolts becomes Agent Venom.
Okay, I didn't really take that in, honestly. Like that's a really good point in the sense of like I didn't damn this. It really shows how good the world building is for this show, and I think that it's like. It just has me for a loop because now Eldon just got me theorizing for season 2. But yeah, that is a really good point. And yeah, just sticking with the animated stuff. In comparison to X-Men 97, I would say that this show was so different that they were equally as good. Like, I would say I can't choose. Like, it's so hard for me to choose between the two, but I love them both equally. And I think Marvel, for the first time ever, have officially outdone DC in animation, because we also have the Creature Commandos, which doesn't even compare to Spider-Man and X-Men 97. So I think, Eldon, unfortunately, you'll agree with me because I know we're both huge fans of DC animation, but James Gunn has done it. He has done something no one else has ever done. He has diminished DC animation, and now Marvel animation is 10 times better.
Which is so, like, the animation for it, Creature Commandos looks great, but it's just not there.
Yeah, not
it's
there
just
at all.
Not it.
So before we move on and end the show, we do have a couple of season 2 / future expectations that I do want to bring up. The first one being Web. This is Harry Osborn's project, I should say, / company that he launches to end off the season. And he's like, you know what? If my dad can make a company and I guess take advantage of young scientists, how could I make my own company and really watch them thrive? So that's his goal. And that's why I said he's not like the James Franco. He's not upset that he's not powerful. He's not upset that he's not the main one. He wants to take his name and brand and just make it the best it could be, and that's why I loved it. He invites Peter and Nico on board and a ton of other characters, one of them being Amadeus Cho, who we do know from the comics is the replacement for Hulk, but in this adaptation, he is full on board for Oscorp.
He's not the replacement.
Isn't he?
Never is.
I thought
he's just a smaller version of Hulk.
I thought he
with a
stepped in for
mohawk.
Hulk.
Oh, well, he does. Well, the Hulk is missing, but
Yeah.
I don't think anyone will ever call him the replacement.
Okay, that was bad wordplay, but
Yeah.
essentially everything that Eldin just said is what I meant to say. So that being said, Eldin, season 2, Webb and Amadeus Cho, they're obviously gonna be at odds. Are you looking forward to that?
We gotta see. Well, this is a tease for Hulk. No matter what happens, we're gonna see Hulk. We have Ross already.
Yeah.
So Red Hulk. I will die on the hill that if you look at like Hulk Agents of Smash, there's a reason why Amadeus Cho is not in like the official team.
Yeah.
Because he is just the beast of B Tech Hulks. Like,
Yep.
look at this guy. Also, like, he's super conceited.
Yep.
Do not like the character. Always putting Harry down. Even he put down like Peter down. Like he's just like, oh, I'm the best. I'm the smartest. I can't wait to see him humbled.
Yep, that's totally fair. And now, quite possibly, the biggest plot twist / reveal, I think, in modern Spider-Man media is that we have none other than Richard Parker himself still being alive in prison. Wild stuff here. This was like insane to me. I was freaking out when I saw this because I have never really seen Richard Parker to be alive. He never usually is. And the fact that in this adaptation, it's Aunt May that pulls up to talk to him, and he just says, let's just skip the small talk. How's my son doing? And then he shows her the Polaroid of like Peter with his 2 parents. I was like, insane. What was your immediate reaction to that?
I thought it was awesome. Like you see his name tag.
Yeah, Art Parker, yeah.
Yeah, and it's really cool to see. I'm kind of assuming that he is. So I don't really know where he fits in the sense of like, is he Aunt May's like brother? Is he the husband of Aunt May's sister? Like, or is he Uncle Ben's brother? Like, I don't really know how that relates. It'll be cool to see. Again, for me, like he's never there. We also have a female, like Dr. Connors, which it makes sense that he's alive because then Peter doesn't need that role model in that sense. I just don't know how it's going to fit into the story yet.
Yeah, I was saying to Eldin off air, I'm like, the only gripe I have against Carla Connors now is how do you have Richard Parker without Dr. Connors? It doesn't make sense. So we'll have to see that. But I thought this was crazy. There was a tease that the Amazing Spider-Man 3 was supposed to feature Richard Parker because in the deleted scene of Spider-Man 2, Andrew Garfield sees his dad, but that's not official. So he's still dead in that as well. So insane. And then a lot of future characters to go over, but the one that I mainly want to see is Gwen Stacy. I saw this cool concept art for Gwen Stacy on the left there, and I thought that was amazing. And then the same artist did Spider-Gwen. So I don't think we'd get Spider-Gwen in this, but definitely Gwen Stacy I'm trying to see. I'm kind of overseeing Mary Jane, honestly. Plus, we already have Zendaya right now going on in live action.
We haven't even seen Mary Jane.
Oh, yeah, because I guess, yeah.
We didn't see her in the show at all.
Yeah, you're right.
No name was mentioned. Like, well, I guess they did say MJ like once.
Yeah, like,
but it could have been talking about Michael Jackson.
Exactly, you never know. And I think Gwen Stacy and maybe even the Black Cat, I really want to see those characters in the future for sure.
Always.
Yeah.
Black Cat.
What's Black Cat's first name again?
I don't know. I don't think we need to know.
I'm pretty sure it's Alicia. So you know how I feel about Alicia's.
Oh, yeah. So definitely not for Justin.
Can you like rescind that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just bugging you.
But yeah, so overall, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, great show. I thought for all the low expectations it had, I thought it just this guy Eldon's dying behind the scenes. I thought it was amazing. It was amazing. Get it? There you go. I'll take jokes all week. But before we close out, Eldin, just want to say thank you again for being here today. Thank you for teching behind the scenes.
Always
and I enjoyed hearing your takes. Honestly, the show wouldn't run without you. We could still have a laugh about that. But yeah, thank you so much, Eldin, and thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I really enjoyed this season of Spider-Man, and I'm really excited to see what they do in the future. Whether it's another, well, we know there's going to be a couple seasons. Maybe we get them in a Spider-Verse film. Really enjoyed it, and like hats off to everyone that was in production of making this film and this series. And thank you to everyone for, I guess, voice acting it, because without those voice actors, we don't get such a great cast. So yeah, that's all I got for y'all today. Eldin, I think we're good to go on that note. So thank you once again for being here. fun episode talking about Spider-Man as always, and I was glad to be back on air doing Screenshot for you guys. So like I said, that was it from us today. Thank you guys so much, and don't forget you could follow us on social media at DCSA Media Hub. Thank you so much for watching Screenshot live from the Media Hub on riotradio.ca.